on the craft of upanyasam, I wanted to understand, at least for the audience in general, on how does the process work. For example, what is your day-to-day schedule in terms of preparing for an upanyasam and preparing for a series of concerts that you do across the world, and how does it, and how do you keep learning along the process, and what are some of the things that you do to enhance your craft?
Sriram, in the rendering patterns, we have 4 large areas. One, we have something called as the upanyasams. Second, we have something called Sangeeta upanyasams. Third is a harikatha. Fourth is a kalakshepam. Upanyasams are largely spoken, rendered. You don't mix music in it, and the content spoken or delivered in a typical upanyasam is neither very simple nor too complex. So that's upanyasam. When I intersperse upanyasam with relevant music, it becomes Sangeeta upanyasam. So both upanyasam and Sangeeta upanyasam could be under one genre. There's another one called harikatha, which is believed to have developed as a style during the Maratha period when they ruled Tanjavur down south. So people who were experts in harikatha for a very long time, like Anna Swami Bhagavatar, Kamala Murthy, Banni Bhai, Saraswati Bhai, they all used to commence with a prayer, end with a prayer, and this is a style where you also intersperse music while you're speaking. So literally you sing a few lines which are actually supposed to be spoken. And the area of focus for harikatha was meant to reach the masses, so it is very simple in content. The fourth is of course the kalakshepam. So if we have to understand the content of Sanatana Dharma, especially scriptures, the fundamental and the foundation scriptures like Itihasas, Puranas, Dharma Shastram and so on, it is best learned from an Acharya, and the Acharya renders this in a closed door format. It's not meant for the public. It is called Rahasyam. The rest of it is Sadasyam. So Kalakshepam, the content is very rich, very, very tough. So you really need to concentrate and practice over and over to get the quintessence of the content. So that is Kalakshepam. So you have this. Now coming to where I am placed, I do upanyasams mostly, and at times when people force, I mix music while I sing. Of course, I've been doing a lot of harikathas these years, in the music season especially, wherein I collaborate with artists, musicians, and we plan the entire content in such a way that I speak and they sing. I speak and they sing relevant music. Kalakshepam is of course something that I have learned and I've been learning under Acharyas, and for me to become a person who renders Kalakshepams, I feel that I need that little time to mature spiritually and then learn content in a better style to actually give that. So coming to whether I prepare or not for my day-to-day lectures, I don't craft a typical schedule to say that these 3 hours I'll dedicate to reading this. What I do is I take up a topic like Ramayana. For the last 2 years, it's an in-depth analysis that I've been doing on Ramayana. So I read across the basic Sanskrit commentaries, the very ancient ones, the very well-known ones, and revered ones like Bhushanam of Govindaraja, Tilaka's commentary, Maheshwara Tirtha's commentary, Dharmakutam and so on. And I try understanding every verse of Ramayana and I take notes. This is in no means for preparing for any of my forthcoming lectures. None of my lectures, and no organizer will want me to discuss this in this depth. Right. So this is for my own understanding, and I specifically don't craft my day-to-day schedule that way, and I don't prepare for topics.
Just a couple of follow-up questions on these four components that you mentioned. And the Guru Parampara tradition is very important, as I understand. Is there a perspective that you have, because in contemporary learning we have all kinds of other sources which are available, say on the internet and things like that. But as someone on a personal level, I believe a lot in the Guru Parampara tradition, which is which has been followed for lineages. Is that also an integral component which has provided you the base for you to kind of build on over a period of time?
Typically, in Sanatana Dharma, we have had a lot of aspiring students learning from teachers in the traditional Guru Sishya Parampara mode. So they would just not go to the Guru's house day in and day out. They may even end up staying in the Guru's house, serving the Guru Mata, who is a wife to the Guru, for years together. So that has been a very good method of acquiring knowledge, no doubt. You get to learn a lot of other things in life just besides what content you've wanted to learn from the Guru. But of the Gurus that I've had, two of my Gurus taught me over Skype. So I am personally a recipient of knowledge in the Kalakshepa mode through a virtual system.
Right.
So I wouldn't say this is good or that is bad. I would rather put it this way. In the last 30, 40 years or last 20 years, there's been a huge, humongous urbanization. So people have moved from villages. So typically in the Carnatic music circle, we have had musicians who are called Semmangudi Srinivasa Iyer. We don't know for how many years he stayed in Semmangudi. So we've had such people. For example, there is a great doyen of our times who renders discourses. He's called Sri Velukudi Krishnan. Velukudi is a small village. I don't know for how many years he stayed in that village. After this Velukudi, Semmangudi, those villages, we had this concept of large cities being crafted. You had Bombay Sisters, you had Bombay Jayashree, Calcutta Brothers, Hyderabad Brothers, and so on. So from villages they thought, let's keep city names. I feel in the current day context, I belong to Bangalore. I barely stay in Bangalore, so I don't know which city to put in front of my name. So typically this Guru Sishya Parampara is going away in terms of personal learning, just because the Guru is placed elsewhere and I am placed somewhere. Even if we are in one city, ends of Bangalore city is 75 kilometers. So traveling is tough. So of course you can always meet your Guru occasionally, but this system is helping us a lot.
Right. Just one more question on this segment. Also on the on how you adapt to changes, because say when you started Upanyasa, say Upanyasam a few years ago, and compared to what it is today, obviously there have been many changes. So do you make a conscious effort to take a pause every 6-7 months to kind of look at how you're performing, or is there some element that you want to innovate and things like that? Is there any kind of a review process that you do in general?
Having worked in the corporate world, I would seriously want such a scenario, desire a scenario where I look back and check what was different from what I used to do 5 years before in this year, and how can I improve the next year. If there is some official or organized feedback system from my audience, all this will surely help. But what so happens is I have my lectures booked till 2020 mid. So and in the next month it will go till 2020, 1 month after the mid of 2020. So literally it's just going non-stop. Of course, I need to take some break off every few weeks to learn. When I say learn, read books, though not preparing for the lectures, but to personally understand. The feedback system these days from audience is very instantaneous. I give a lecture, the next minute I will have 10 Facebook comments, 20 personal messages, few WhatsApp messages, some calls. So somebody telling somebody that somebody will tell me what was there in this lecture, what was different, what was same, was it boring, was it interesting, did that make them sleep, and so on. So feedback system is quite robust with the technology that we have today. Of course, at the break that one would desire, called literally in the corporate world we call it the sabbatical. I just can't afford to take a sabbatical. Probably I'll have to plan a sabbatical for some period 2 years from now. So it's like that.
That's great. So I think that kind of concludes the first part.